live from Fanrag Sports headquarters in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm Jaime Eisner, here with the man of the hour, the man with the power too sweet to be sour, Franklin Steele. Franklin, how are you this evening?
I'm doing fantastic, Jamie.
Howdy, partner.
Howdy.
Nothing says Blackhawks and Tampa Bay Lightning hockey like a cowboy hat.
I lost a bet on Game 4, so I have to wear this hat while I'm live on Periscope and talking to all you folks out there. All you folks out there on YouTube and the Facebook, I'd like to say howdy. Franklin Steele. We're here to talk about Tampa Bay Lightning.
Not that we've offended 25% of our audience.
Sorry, guys.
I think we can move on from this. So yeah, you want to talk about hockey? So go talk hockey.
All right. We'll get to the kind of the prediction-y part of it, and I promise I will.
Will you make
a
one
prediction
this time? Oh, okay, that's cute. Nice.
I promise I'll make a prediction this time. We'll get to something that I've kind of been thinking about through the first couple games of this series. If you're building a team from scratch,
okay, got it. Like the Coyotes.
Yeah, like the Coyotes, and you're allowed to pick between Duncan Keith and Victor Hedman as the defenseman that you build around. Who do you take?
Does age matter?
Age does not matter to the let's just assume.
I mean, is this 1 year or is this I'm building out a franchise for?
Let's set some parameters. You're going to get
I need rules. I like
4 prime years out of each player at their current, not at their current cap hits. Let's say each guy's making 7.
This is getting complicated.
Just who you're going to build around.
It's complicated.
4 prime
Simple.
years.
Is this long term or is this for 1 season? Because for 1 season, my pick's Duncan Keith. Right now, if I got 1 season, it's Duncan Keith. If it's multiple seasons, Victor Hedman. Handful of years younger. He skates. His skating ability for someone his size is unbelievable. I think it's unparalleled. Give me the younger guy. I'm all about youth movement. Give me the younger guy.
What's really kind of fun to me about what's happening with Hedman is it kind of reminds me of what happened with Drew Doughty when the Los Angeles Kings started making their playoff pushes. Everybody knew that Drew Doughty was this outstanding hockey player, but he was kind of in this not isolated market in Los Angeles, but he's not in Toronto, he's not in Detroit, he's not in Chicago.
He's the Sun Belt market.
Yeah, so there's other stuff going on in L.A., and you know, does he get the attention?
Oh, is there?
Yeah, there's a couple things going on in Los Angeles. You know, everybody kind of marvels at these players when they get into these spotlights from these things, and I know we've kind of spoken about it a little bit, but it was around Game 2 or Game 3. Everybody was like, Victor Hedman's a pretty good hockey player.
Yeah, I saw all these posts and all these stories of Victor Hedman's coming out party. I was like, Victor Hedman's been good for a while, guys. But it's good to see some of these Sunbelt teams get a little bit more exposure. And I mean, we talked, I think, on our first live podcast, Periscope, whatever you like to call this, that when we talked about what final the league would like more, and part of the points we brought up is that getting exposure to these non-traditional markets is important, and we're starting to see that. People know the triplet line now. People know Victor Hedman. People are starting to kind of learn how John Cooper's come up from the AHL ranks to the NHL with a lot of the same guys and has been successful at both. I mean, these are really good stories from a team that doesn't get much coverage.
Right, especially in Florida. I mean, this being in Florida and whatnot. So, yeah, it's good to see. Everybody knows Steven Stamkos going into the series. By everybody, I just mean...
Yeah, no, everybody knows who Steven Stamkos is.
Yeah. Just kind of your not... I don't want to say run-in-the-mill fans, but, you know, obviously if you follow the sport closely, you know a couple guys on each team. You know Stamkos. You probably know who Ben Bishop is by this point, but I don't know if...
can only move diagonally.
Right, can only move diagonally. I don't know if Victor Hedman would have been on a lot of people's top 5, top 6 defenseman lists, and I don't think you'll find a lot of people that would argue that he is a top 2, top 3, top 4 guy. So good for him. Hopefully he sells some jerseys. Buy some Victor Hedman jerseys.
And by the way, for those of you watching us live on Periscope right now, feel free to send us questions, and I will make Franklin answer them. Because when you don't make predictions, we don't like it. We don't like it. We got negative. The only negative feedback we've ever gotten on the show, besides having to look at
was from my dad.
Our 2 ugly mugs about this guy over here not manning up.
I did
and making a prediction. No, you waited till after we turned off the camera to make a prediction that I believe was actually turned out to be right or wrong. I don't even remember.
I blame the cameraman on that.
Of course you do. Former Atlanta Thrashers fan, holding the Periscope camera over there as he's laughing now. Let's talk about more about. You brought up Ben Bishop. We have no idea when he's going to play again. It looks like he's not going to play Game 5. Andre Vasilevskiy. Yeah, that guy.
AV
for short. There was an article up on today's Slapshot. That's a shameless plug right there.
Not that shameless.
That it's by Catherine Silverman. It kind of talked about how people who are worried about the Lightning because Ben Bishop's not there anymore. It's a little bit of an overreaction. Are the Lightning okay? Do they need Ben Bishop to be in there, or can they survive with their backup in there for even if it happens to be the rest of the series?
I think it's kind of interesting because of when this is happening. If this happens game 1 or early in the series like they did against Montreal last year, I think they have a real problem on their hands. They have to win 4 games with a goalie that hasn't played in this high of a pressure situation. And it's kind of a little bit of an aside. I think looking at these goalies at this point in this day and age, they've played in a lot of high pressure games by the time they get to the NHL. So is AV going to go in there and face off against the Blackhawks in this game and be worried about it? I don't think he's going to be intimidated by a Taves or a Kane because they only have to win 2 out of the next 3 games. So he
performed well in Game 4. I mean, again,
he was fantastic.
I mean, he wasn't again. I think John Cooper brought it up best when they asked him about his goaltender. He said, "We scored
right.
1 goal."
Right.
To me, I think they're fine. I think goaltender might be the most overrated position in hockey right now, and I think that's because of the parity there is, because of how the size of goaltenders has grown, because of the way the coaching has changed. Yes, if you have an elite netminder like a Carey Price, like a Henrik Lundqvist, does it give you an advantage? Of course it does. But if you're a quality skating team, you have good possession, you have guys that can put the puck in the back of the net on a regular basis without the help of others, like they do with the guys like Steven Stamkos, which we'll get to in a second, who maybe hadn't been able to do that yet, you can win this series. I don't think this series comes down to whether or not Vasilevsky plays well. I think it's whether or not the top line of Tampa Bay can finally score. The real top line of Tampa Bay can push through.
I want to circle back real quick because I think it's kind of interesting to think about just the dynamic of what can happen when 2 teams face each other. Let's rewind it. Let's say it's the Montreal Canadiens that are getting through and they represent. And they end up in the final against the Chicago Blackhawks. And then we're talking about Corey Crawford, how Corey Crawford's the question mark. We're not sure if Corey Crawford can outperform Carey Price. Is Crawford the weakness? Is he the weak link in Chicago? And so on and so forth. But because of who's in the final, who he's playing against, it's Ben Bishop. Ben Bishop's the weak link. Ben Bishop's the guy that we have to worry about. So I just think it's interesting, the dynamic where if Tampa had played a different team, Ben Bishop wouldn't be the question mark. He would be solid. Of course, he's whatever's going on with Ben Bishop. It's been really weird.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, it's the NHL. They're not going to tell us what's wrong. We know this, but
it'll be
just
interesting.
The whole situation
that
is
post-game
bizarre.
scrum after it's all said and done. Regardless of who wins, I just am really curious to see what's going on with him. I've really never seen goalies come in and out of games and have coaches like straight up just say, "Nah, I'm not going to tell you anything about it."
Yeah, I mean, and Bishop holds a press conference in which he says nothing and apologizes for it afterward. But it's a really strange situation. But John Cooper said he expects Bishop back in this series. He won't say when. So hopefully,
giving him the Druin treatment.
Maybe he'll come back and they'll wheel him out on the ice for Game 7 and he'll win, and then we have the moment.
He was gutsy though. He's playing. I mean, he wasn't comfortable. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't want to go out on a limb and say, "Oh, Bishop's hurt," but he wasn't.
I would assume,
he's wincing.
Considering he's not playing and not dressing, that there's something wrong with him. I don't think he's just taking a vacation right now.
Yeah, he looked like he was in pain, and he made the stops that he needed to make. So anyway, I think it's going to be fun to see what happens over the next couple games. But if Crawford gives up 1 goal in the next game and AV gets the shutout, can't wait to see what people are talking about heading into Game 6.
Yeah, the narrative machine just takes a different turn after each game. Right. But switch gears a little bit. That Steven Stamkos fella.
Steven Stamkos.
What the hell's going on?
I think that this is his, and he's going to have plenty of opportunities to do this. I don't think this is going to hurt his reputation as an elite finisher in any way, shape, or form. But I think this is a kind of a unique opportunity for him in his career to really elevate his status as a game breaker. To go in there against a big market like Chicago, against players like Taves and Kane and Hossa and Seabrook and Keith and Crawford and all these people that everybody knows about, and bury a couple big goals and be somebody that people are going to talk about all summer. And again, he's just one of those players that, if you list the top 4 or 5 best goal scorers in the league, he's going to be somebody that you talk about. But is he getting his replays shown on Sports Center and that kind of thing? Not really. So they of course, they only show 2 hockey players, but whatever. The point I'm trying to make is
Wait, the
that
series is more than just Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane?
from what I've heard.
Oh, okay.
So it's just kind of a unique opportunity for him to add to his legacy, for lack of better phrasing.
I mean, he's in an interesting spot because in the era we're in, we don't have a lot of goal-scoring centermen. It's just not a... You have guys that score a lot, but with their... to use just a common phrase, a sniper, a guy that's his first mission is to score a goal, not to generate a playmaking play, generate a pass, play two-way game. Steven Stamkos is out there to score a goal. He scored 60 before in the season. He's one of the few guys that can score like that now. Those players go cold, and it happens. It happens a lot to wingers, and they're not, when you're second line or first line left or right wing, you're not exactly under the same amount of scrutiny than when you're the captain of the team, you're the first line center, you're the face of the franchise. And if you can ask anybody on the street to name one Tampa Bay Lightning player, if they could, that player Stamkos. Yeah. So him struggling, he plays a completely different game than Jonathan Toews. So every time I see a headline that's like, well, Jonathan Toews comes through and, Steven Stamkos is left
crumbles,
lighting.
He crumbles.
They're different game, different spots. They're asked to do different things. Yeah. Again, not going to talk down Jonathan Toews. He's an elite center. You're nitpicking at that point. But Steven Stamkos is not bad. I'm with you. I don't think his legacy's tarnished even if he goes this whole series without a goal. But boy, could Tampa really, really use one.
I think the other thing to think about, too, is there's a little bit of extra pressure on Stamkos because of whatever's going on with Tyler Johnson. Tyler Johnson may or may not be a little hurt. He's not taking faceoffs anymore. And he doesn't appear to be as dynamic when you have a guy like Johnson going out and scoring 4 game-winning goals and carrying a lot of the offensive load. Then people say, oh, well, Stamkos doesn't have to score right now because this other line's getting it done. Take that out of the equation, and all of a sudden the focal point is really back on where everybody probably thought it was going into the postseason. That's on the Stamkos line. I'm curious to see if they continue to roll him out at center. They've given him some looks at wings with Valtteri Filppula to try and get him some open looks.
Great.
He, the guy that they moved out for, what's his name? That Weiss guy.
Oh yeah, well, hey, there's rumors there was a rumor back they wanted the Coyotes were going to trade Keith Yandel for Filppula straight up. Those got shot down real quick.
Wing and a miss. But yeah, so I just think without Johnson's offensive push kind of backing up Stamkos, I don't think it's a one-trick pony team by any means, but I think that it adds a little bit of pressure to Mr. Stamkos' plate.
And again, it's a young team that doesn't have a ton of forward depth. I mean, they have a couple lines that can really do some damage, but they don't have the depth Chicago has and what Chicago's been able to build.
Here comes Brendan Morrow.
Yeah. So as I was saying, they don't have the depth that the Chicago Blackhawks have. But one thing we can't complain about this series, whether it is just how high quality it's been. I mean, it's 2-2 so far. Games have been really close. Yeah. Is this? I mean, when's the last time we've had a series this good? A Stanley Cup Final series this good?
Oh man,
pre-lockout, post-lockout. I mean, how far back do you got to go?
I have favorite series. I still think one of my favorite series of all time is a series nobody watched. And that was when the Oilers and Hurricanes played each other. That was just chock full of drama. But I don't think the hockey was as high quality as it is right now.
Lockouts will do that to you.
Yeah. People are hitting posts, and maybe the execution isn't at a level that the coaches would want it to be at. But as a fan watching it, it's a lot of fun. I think that there is this idea that the Blackhawks were going to come in and beat the Lightning in 4 games, 5 games, which I never bought into, but there's this thought that they were a dominant team that was really going to manhandle Tampa, and I'm glad that that's not the way things are shaking down. The TV ratings are there.
Because you hate Chicago, right?
I don't hate Chicago. I don't at all. But the TV ratings are there. They're trading chances left and right. All stars on both sides. I mean, if you sit down and you watch one of those games, and that's the first hockey game that you watch, you come back to see the next game. And I think that's ultimately what the final in particular is about. Is because I'm going to go back and watch no matter what. You're going to go back and watch no matter what. But just getting to those people that are sitting down in a bar or wherever in Chicago or Tampa with their buddies and watching it for the first time, like, man, that was a crazy scramble at the end of that game. I need to come back and see what happens. So You can't fake it, can't draw it up, but it's there, and I'm looking forward to see what happens.
I mean, they're two exciting, fast teams. I mean, if you look at Tampa Bay, they are what Chicago was 5 years ago. I mean, they're on that same kind of arc if everything works well.
Yeah.
It's just exciting all around, and I think it's. I know some of you are multi-sport fans. If you look what the NBA finals are doing as well, it's the. You okay there? Okay, good up, champ.
Sorry.
It's about the same thing. Everybody kind of thought, the Cavaliers were going to get blown over by Golden State, and there was nothing they can do, and that series is 2-2, and same thing with this series, where you just don't know. But to me, I'm trying to think about when's the last series I thought this was this competitive throughout. The last 7-game series that comes to mind is, Vancouver-Boston, but that was the most lopsided 7-game series I've ever seen. Boston was by far the better team, and the Canucks managed to sneak out a few 1-goal wins at home to prolong it before, they destroyed their city and whatnot. Was it maybe those Red Wings Penguins, those back-to-back years? Is that probably the last time we've seen, maybe a little bit the new young team come up against the old veterans with cups?
Yeah, I think the series, I think it was 2009, that the Penguins beat the Red Wings, and that series, in 20 years we're going to go back and look at that series, and there's going to be like 9 or 10 Hall of Famers in it. Zetterberg in his prime, Datsuk in his prime, Crosby in his prime, Malkin in his prime, Fleury's playing well.
Hossa.
Hossa was there too.
Hossa picked the wrong side twice.
Poor guy.
Twice.
He's got
his rings
now. Yeah,
he's fine.
Got his rings, got his money. So I think that was an incredibly close, incredibly dramatic final. But even then, I feel like the game has changed a little bit over the past 5 or 6 years, where it's a little bit quicker, a little more. I don't know if precise is the right word, but there's a little bit more, skill, on display, visible, noticeable things happening. And I obviously haven't watched that final in a little while. But off the top of my head, you know what I mean? I just think that there's a lot more skill on display. And again, not that it was at all lacking.
But it's a different game. It's a different game now, and it's you have skill throughout your lineup. You have skill in the third line. You have skill in the fourth line. I mean, every year the game is moving more toward puck possession and speed.
Remix.
Puck possession and speed. That's what you need to win in the NHL today.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think it's been a great final, and next year's gonna have a little bit of a hard time living up to it, especially with how bad last year's final was. I think this is a nice splash of cold water onto the face.
Yeah, I mean, when the Kings win again next year, it's going to be,
Kings Bruins final. Here we go.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Bruins aren't going to the final. Kings might.
Kings. I'm still not sure they're.
You're picking the Blues next year.
Sure.
You're picking the Blues.
Yeah, I've made that mistake too many times.
Half-decade running. Here
too
we
many
go.
times.
Yep.
St. Louis Blues. But let's talk a little bit about, before we wrap up, let's talk about Antoine Vermette and the Chicago Blackhawks.
You want to talk about Antoine?
Damn right I want to talk about him.
You talk about Antoine Vermette.
But see, I'm hosting the show because you're not throwing to me. I'm waiting for you. It's right here on your cue card to talk about Antoine Vermette right there, folks. I don't know if you can zoom in close enough.
He can't.
It says Antoine Vermette right there, and you didn't ask me about it, so I'm just going to start with myself. It's really been amazing how quickly the narrative surrounding Antoine. Don't you look for the card's gone. Card's gone. The narrative for Antoine Vermette has changed. I mean, he really struggled coming over from the Coyotes to Chicago at the end of the regular season. Was benched multiple times in the postseason. Scored the game-winning goal, one of the game-winning goals in the Western Conference Finals. Scored the game-winning goal in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. He's out there they pulled Jonathan Toews off the ice in Game 3 with seconds remaining to put Antoine Vermette out there for a face-off. I mean, the mentality around him has completely changed. It's good to see, as someone who covered him here for 3 years. He's a really nice guy, really works hard, kind of was obscure out here in Arizona, but it's nice to see him kind of get things going, and again, maybe even winning a cup.
Yeah, he's doing the things that they went out and got him for, too. I remember way back when they traded for him at the trade deadline.
Wow.
They said that we thought they're getting him to kill penalties, to win faceoffs, to be that guy that's out there on the ice at the end of the game, and then he was getting scratched left and right. And I thought that was really weird.
Yeah,
so
Joe Quenneville.
It takes time to settle in. I think a lot of people, and I've never been traded at the trade deadline to a contender, so I don't want to project too much. But I'm assuming going from a situation where you're really comfortable and trying to pick up new systems and go to a high pressure market like that, getting to know how guys like Taves and Kane and Keith all down the list, work. That's hard to do on the fly, and he just hopped on a plane and was dropped into a situation, and now he's definitely making the most of it. Probably making himself a couple bucks this summer too. So
he's pending unrestricted free agent, and he's a guy again. He was a leader in the Coyotes locker room. Goes to Chicago. He's just a spoke on the wheel there. There's 8 or 9 guys that are arguably more talented than he is, so it's a completely different dynamic. But let's put this all in a nice little bow. All right.
You're asking me to predict it, aren't you?
That's exactly what I'm going to do, and you're going to go first.
The game or the series? We're just talking the game, right?
Well, I don't know. How courageous do you want to be right now for our lovely fans on Periscope?
It stresses me out. We kind of dealt with it with the Ducks and the Blackhawks, where we talked about, the Ducks have never done it, and the Blackhawks always do it.
And then they did.
So at some point, I assume the Blackhawks have to stop crushing teams in games 5, 6, and 7. I don't think that this is the time that's going to happen. They're just too calm. They're too collected. It's going to be one of those great learning experiences for Tampa, and they're going to be back in the final in the next 2 or 3 years. I don't know if necessarily good teams have to lose, to win. I just think this is one of those cases where the Blackhawks have built up to this team. They're not going to be as good next year. They're not going to be as good the year after that due to age, due to the cap. So this is about as good as you can get a team to be with the cap. Barring some kind of heroic performance from a Stamkos or a Johnson or a Vasilevskiy, I think the Blackhawks find a way to dig it out. Hopefully in triple overtime, Game 7, because I love covering triple overtimes, especially in Game 7.
I think I'm covering for you that day. So I do not want a triple overtime Game 7.
Go,
as fun as that would be.
Go triple OT.
As ludicrous as it sounds, the Blackhawks don't lose series that are 2-2. They just do not. They own those 2-2 series. They're going to do it again. Blackhawks in 6.
Blackhawks in
2 more in a row. Done.
Wrapping it up. You heard it here first. Don't drop the mic. Don't drop the mic.
Now, for those of you on Periscope, Franklin Steele was going to give me 30 seconds to talk about the Coyotes. So if you haven't read my article yet on today's Slapshot about the Coyotes, please do, because if you read it, Franklin Steele allows me to eat that night. Otherwise, he continues to keep me locked up like Harry Potter. That was a very timely reference. Of course it was. All right. So for this Coyotes thing, for those of you who don't know, the city of Glendale made a lease agreement with the Coyotes for 15 years. They now, about 2 years into it, want to get out of it because they're Glendale. They're going to lose in court. But in the meantime, this whole scenario of all the Coyotes, are they going to leave, are they not, comes back again. It's really dumb. Glendale's being really dumb. But if you want to tase the mayor of Glendale, if you go on my article, there's a link for $10,000, for charity, of course. Always for charity. You can tase the mayor of Glendale. So for you Coyotes fans out there, if you can work up $10,000, you can tase the mayor of Glendale. I'm obviously not saying you should tase the mayor of Glendale. All legal proceedings here. But if you want to, and you've got $10,000 to spare, I know a place, I know a guy, I know a time. Make it happen.
I have a couple